Let's turn to the Middle East, where Iran and Israel attacked each other for the fourth straight night. Iran fired more missiles at Israel's major cities. Israel's Iron Dome defense system responded, but some of the missiles did get through. At least 5 Israelis were killed overnight. Video shows some of the damage that was done. Israeli warplanes struck more targets in Iran overnight, and this morning, Israel claims its planes can fly freely over much of the country. Deborah Pat is in a Tel Aviv neighborhood that was damaged in last night's attack with the latest. Deborah, good morning.
Good morning. The American consulate is just down there. As you can see, it's in a densely populated area. That was the scene of a devastating attack overnight. Behind me, buildings have been destroyed, windows blown out, some reduced to rubble. Shops also have been demolished. It's been a rough night.
A direct hit right in the heart of Tel Aviv. The night sky lit up with explosions as Israel's air defense system intercepted one Iranian missile after another. The strike destroyed the homes of people living in this densely populated neighborhood. Not far from Tel Aviv, in the city of Petah Tikva, at least 4 Israelis were killed after a missile slammed into this building, bringing the number of deaths since last week to at least 24. But the toll Israel has inflicted on Iran is far higher. 224 killed, including women and children, as well as the ongoing assassination of top military commanders and nuclear scientists. Thousands of civilians are fleeing the capital, Tehran. They are not used to being under attack, and we understand the regime is concerned it could spark unrest. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has already hinted at regime change. Israel has said the purpose of the war is also to cripple Iran's nuclear capability. When pressed on why they acted now, Netanyahu had this to say.
They were marching very quickly. They would achieve a test device and possibly an initial device within months and certainly less than a year.
There are reports that President Trump rejected an Israeli plan to assassinate Iran's supreme leader. But the office of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has told CBS News these are fake. Nate?
Deborah Prada in Tel Aviv, thank you.
So Iran has some dear people, including a very strong and growing young underground Christian church. And thanks to technology and social media, a lot of people in Iran are getting their news from non-state sponsored sources, which means they're going to be a little more integrous and objective. And there's a growing sense within Iran that this government needs to go. It's a regime that has ruled with an iron fist for around 40 years. It's governed by Islamic extremists and mullahs, and it was being choked out until Joe Biden lifted sanctions and allowed them to start to export some oil and unfreeze some assets. That money was immediately redistributed to terrorist proxies, the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas, that did attack Israel, including the horrific invasion of Israel by Hamas from Gaza. And Hamas is, by the way, a terrorist organization, and it is the government in perpetuity for Gaza. But it is sponsored and funded by Iran. And so Iran is the bad actor. Iran is the head of the snake, and Iran is the global center of jihadist terror. And they are a constant and existential threat to the nation of Israel. They constantly shout and chant, death to Jews, death to Israel, death to America. We are aligned with the interest of Israel in this fight. And if Iran were to get nuclear weapons, you would be looking at a globe that was forever shifted and changed. Islamic eschatology, their view of the end times in the last days, is that Islam will overtake the world through jihad, holy war, and force, and that there will be one last battle, the war to end all wars, through which they will topple their enemies, and that will bring the uprising of the person that they consider to be their version of Christ, their Messiah, their political, global, spiritual leader, to usher in Islam and its Sharia law as the governing force on the earth. Well, as Christians, we know that if this does happen, he is, according to Paul, the man of lawlessness and the Antichrist. Exactly what Islam wants is the Battle of Armageddon, to quote Revelation, or the Battle of Gog and Magog, to quote Ezekiel 38 and 39. And so you can't allow that to happen. Those two wars in the Bible triggered the second coming of Christ because the nations surrounding Israel would finally succeed in their determined effort in perpetuity to eradicate the nation of Israel and the Jewish people. And so two things need to happen. Number one, Iran needs to be obliterated. That's why you're seeing Israel rightly using strategic military sites. They're going after places where there's military arsenal, there's leaders in the military and those who are nuclear scientists, because Iran is on the precipice and brink of having nuclear weapons. You put nuclear weapons into a state that is run by terrorists who basically have the same mentality of a suicide bomber, which is, I'm willing to blow myself up as long as I blow you up, and then I'll get a bunch of virgins forever from my demon god. You're dealing with people that cannot be negotiated with or reasoned with. They just simply need to be stopped and ended. Number two, people in Israel and people in Iran, they need Jesus Christ. The solution here is spiritual. If the Church of Jesus Christ was unleashed and released in Iran, this government would topple and fall. Furthermore, if people in Israel met Jesus Christ, then suddenly you would have brothers and sisters across the borders, and the hostility that has existed all the way back to the days of Abraham to some degree, as he got two women pregnant and their sons' descendants to some degree have been duking it out ever since for thousands of years, would ultimately result in peace, because Jesus alone is the Prince of Peace, or Shalom. So we need to be doing two things. We need to be siding with Israel in their attack on Iran. We need to be praying for, and in our opportunity we have to be supporting the church in Israel and Iran, because behind all of this is ultimately a war that started in heaven between God and Satan. And it is not just a military, but a spiritual solution that will bring peace. And the only way to have that peace is if Jesus Christ is ruling over everyone and everything, which is why we're just longing for his second coming.